done, Balaram, well done. For them, this demon killing was it was like a daily program. But there were no reruns. Every day, new demons were coming and killed in new, fashionable ways, and it was so beautiful, so sweet, so exciting. Especially little boys, they like these chivalrous types of episodes. And the demigod showered flowers. The boys embraced Balaram as if he had just come back from the dead. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that Pralambasura represents a particular demon that is within the heart of every conditioned soul. An anartha, an unwanted quality that devotees must somehow or other overcome. But each one of these anarthas are so powerful, like Pralamba, that we have no power against them. It's only by the mercy of Guru, Krishna, and the Vaishnavas that we can possibly overcome them. Pralamba represents lusty inclinations and desire for personal gain or honor. In other words, gross and subtle sex life. Gross life is the lust, gross sex attraction is the lust of the mind's connection to the senses. And subtle sex life is that desire for profit, adoration, and honor, distinction. They are demons within the heart who, like Pralambasura, are trying to kill our inclination to love and serve Krishna, who are trying to take Krishna and Balaram away from us. That is their purpose. But we see how in this age of Kali, how people think that these inclinations are their friends. And they put trust in them. People put faith in their lusty inclinations, thinking that this will bring me happiness. This will bring me progressive elevation in my pursuits in life. But actually, an enemy never wants you to be happy. An enemy wants you to suffer. An enemy doesn't want you to succeed. An enemy wants you to fail. Yes? But these enemies, the worst enemies, they disguise as friends. Why? So that they could completely capture your entire attention. And the more your consciousness is fixed on these lusty inclinations, the more they could take Krishna away and cause havoc and pain in your life. Now these disguised enemies that are within all of us, inducing us to do so many irreligious activities, those things unfavorable for devotional service, to want them, to speak them, to do them, they're very difficult to overcome. Yatato hyapi konteya purushasya vipashchita indriyanam hi charitam yanmano navadiyate. Krishna says the senses are so strong and impetuous, Arjuna, that they can forcibly carry away even the mind of a man of intelligence who's trying to control them. It's very difficult. But we must fix our mind on Krishna. And how do we fix our mind on Krishna? By fixing our mind on his instruction. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur says certain demons, just by taking shelter of Krishna in his holy name, will eliminate them. But those particular asuras of Vrindavan that Balaramji delivered, they represent those anarthas in our heart that we must have the grace, the blessings, the strength that is coming from the spiritual master. In order to overcome lusty inclinations and desire for personal gain or honor, yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado yasya prasadanagati kutopa. We need Balaram's help, which is coming through parampara. By taking the words of the gurus as our life and soul. Today, devotees took vows of initiation. By honoring those vows, by making that sincere effort, Krishna or God helps those who help themselves. Krishna tells in Gita that for those who make that sincere endeavor to surrender to me, I will preserve whatever little you have, and I will carry what you lack. And how does he carry? Through the words of the spiritual master, through the parampara. We must have that faith, and we must have that fidelity. And then, yes, the demon pralamba within us will be exposed and will not be an obstacle. That lust will be transformed by the mercy of Guru and the Vaishnavas. By the mercy of Lord Balaram, that lust will be transformed into prem or love. So with the few minutes we have, I'd like to speak some other good lessons that Balaram has taught us. When he was living in Dwarka, there was a particular asura. His name was Dvivida. Dvivida was a gorilla, and he was very powerful. After Krishna killed Narakasura, Dvivida was outraged because he was Narakasura's best friend. He wanted revenge. Krishna killed my friend. He was going to create havoc. Now, for those of you who know Ramayana, Dvivida and his brother Menda were high-ranking ministers of Sugriva. And they fought valiantly, along with Hanuman, against Ravana to bring Sita back to Ram. They are two great heroes of Ramayana. They were amongst the monkey soldiers, powerful warriors, making major decisions in the battle. How is it that Dvivida, that same personality, is now the enemy of Krishna? And he became like a terrorist, causing misery to innocent people. This is a very important lesson. Because Dvivida in Ram's army was so powerful, he was so highly respected due to his power and his influence, he became proud. In the Christian scripture it says, pride cometh before the fall. That is not a theory. That is a fact. Because of his pride, he disrespected Lakshman and other devotees. Lakshman represents Guru. The other devotees are Vaishnavas. Due to his false pride, he committed Guru Aparad and Vaishnava Aparad. Lakshman in his Leela, when he was fighting with Ravana, he was hit by javelin and he was unconscious. It appeared he was dead. It appeared he was fallible. Hanumanji had to bring the mountain from far away with Sanjeevani to bring Lakshman back to his life. Somehow or other, due to false pride of being such a highly powerful and honored soldier, Dvivida considered Lakshman to be ordinary and disrespected him. What happens at that time? Sridhar Swami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they explain that when due to false pride you disrespect exalted Vaishnavas, you become attracted to bad association. And that bad association corrupts and destroys your devotion. Here is Dvivida, a man who risked and endured so much hardships in the service of Ram. Due to becoming friends with Narakasura, he was utterly polluted. Just to show the danger of false pride and disrespecting Guru and Vaishnavas. And how did he manifest his anger, his pride? He was going to cities, towns, villages, agricultural fields, the places where cows were protected, and he was lighting them all on fire, burning them down. He was going to the places where the Brahmins and the Rishis were performing yagyas, and he was tearing all the trees of the forest down. Then he would put out the yagya, and then just to do a little extra, he would pass urine and stool all over the area to make it polluted. He would take innocent men and women by the thousands and shove them in caves and then take gigantic stones and put them in front of the cave so that they were trapped. Just like a wasp traps innocent little insects. But that wasn't enough. He had such powerful arms that he would go to the ocean and just start swirling his arms in the ocean. And all the shores of the ocean, they were like tsunami waves. Literally, completely flood, worse than tsunami waves. Because tsunami wave, it just whoop and whoop. It just comes in and goes out, right? But this would come in and just stay. He was drowning all the shorelines of the ocean, submerging them in massive, massive quantities of water. And one day, when he was just destroying everything, he happened to hear sweet singing and music coming from the Raivataka mountain. So he went there, and there he saw Lord Balaram dancing and singing with his consorts. Now, because it was such a nice evening, and Balaram was having such a pleasant experience with his consorts, Varuni, the daughter of Varuna, manifested herself as a beverage called Varuni, which is very nectarine. It's like honey that flows from the hollow of trees, but it's intoxicating, but nothing like the intoxications of this world. It's difficult to explain what type of intoxication. It's not against the regulative principles. It brings you closer to Krishna. It doesn't take you away from Krishna. So Balaramji was drinking and sharing it with his consorts, and they were rolling their eyes and singing and dancing, and they were having such nice time. And Vivida appeared. He started jumping on the trees and making a loud sigh, "Kila, kila, kila, kila," just to demand everyone's complete attention. When this massive gorilla is jumping on a tree, screaming out, "Kila, kila," everything else stopped and just looked at him. And just to harass them, he started moving his eyebrows and showing his teeth and doing all kinds of very crazy things, crossing his eyes. And the ladies, being very innocent, they started laughing. But then Vivida turned his backside and showed the private part of his body right in front of their faces, in front of Balaram, just to insult Balaramji. And then he turned around and started pulling the consorts of Balaram's clothes, and was doing all nasty things. So Balaramji picked up a stone and threw it at Vivida. And it hit him on the head. And his head cracked. And some blood came out. But Vivida was so proud that it didn't even faze him. He accepted it like a decoration, like a mountain with some red oxide flowing from it. And Balaramji picked up his plow and his club. Vivida picked up a massive shal tree, uprooted it, and then with the power of his hands, this is a gigantic tree, he just trimmed off all the leaves and branches, so it was like a huge club. He did it in a second. He attacked Balaramji, and with all of his power, banged it on his head. Balaramji just stood there, unfazed like a mountain. And after the big tree fell from his head, Balaram just threw it aside. Vivida was even more angry. He picked up another shal tree. And every time he came, Balaram with his club just smashed the tree to pieces, until every tree in the forest was gone. Then he started picking up gigantic rocks and throwing it at Balaram, and he was hitting them with his club, until every rock in the entire forest was pulverized into powder. But this is the origin of cricket. And for those of you from the West, it's the origin of baseball also. Hitting balls with clubs. Yes? bats. Dvivida was so angry. He just came with his mighty fists. Each of Dvivida's arms was as big as a gigantic palm tree. And his fists were huge. These are the hands that just by swirling in the ocean could cause tsunami waves and floods. With all of his power, he was beating Balaram in the chest again and again and again. Sri Balaramji just stood there and understanding that he has caused so much pain and suffering to so many people, I must end his life. So with one crashing blow of Balaram to the collarbone of Dvivida, he vomited, passed stool and urine, and fell to the ground, dead. Sri Balaramji ki jai. And the demigods, they were showering flowers and saying, excellent, excellent. So this story is very illustrative. How Balaramji cannot tolerate false pride. And what false pride develops into progressively. False pride develops a mentality where you disrespect others, and then you become attracted to unwanted association, and all your devotional service becomes degraded. And the Supreme Personality of your Godhead used such an exalted personality as Dvivida as an example to teach the world this lesson. Soon after that, Samba, the son of Jambavati and Krishna, he took a trip to Hastinapur because he wanted to marry Lakshmana. She was having her Swayamvara, where all great kings and princes and heroes could show their might before the queen, before the princess, and she could select whoever she wants. But Samba understood she was not inclined to him. So he just went right into the Swayamvara and kidnapped her. Hare Krishna. Now the Kurus were very upset. They were thinking, because he's already touched her, that means Lakshmana, the daughter of Duryodhana, cannot marry anyone else. She has to marry Samba. But just to show the integrity of our Kuru dynasty, we cannot allow him to get away without unpunished. We must punish him. So they attacked. 6 Maharati, great warriors, against one. And Samba, he fought valiantly. But ultimately, because he was so outnumbered by Karna and such people like this, that they broke his chariot, they broke his club, his arrows, and they kidnapped him. They would not harm him, but they kidnapped him and held him as a prisoner. Narada Muni reported the events in Dwarka. Ugrasena and the whole Yadu dynasty, immediately, within seconds, they had their armor on. They were about to get on their chariots and declare war against the Kuru dynasty. This was an insult to the son of Krishna. But Balaram had a very loving, affectionate relation with Duryodhana. And he did not want to, and he also, of course, he had the deepest loving relationship with the Yadus. So here's the Yadus and the Kurus who he loved dearly. That personality who comes in Kali Yuga is Nityananda to bring harmony to all opposing parties. He wanted to create harmony. He said, please, just be patient. They honor me, they respect me, I will resolve it. So he went on a mission of mediation. Yes? But for those of you who like to mediate, please listen to this story carefully. Even Balaram is not always successful. Even Krishna, he mediated between Yudhisthira and Duryodhana. He was unsuccessful. How is this? This is a very important principle because the Lord never interferes with the free will of a living entity. He will give all opportunities. He will give all instructions. He will even create environments to show our folly. But ultimately, He doesn't take away our free will. Duryodhana is the example. And he's living in all of us. Duryodhana represents that stubbornness within our hearts of wanting to misuse our free will, even though we know exactly what Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, wants and knows. So Balaramji went to Hastinapur. He took a whole entourage of Brahmins, ministers, and Uddhava. He waited outside of Hastinapur in a garden and sent Uddhav in to tell that Balaram has come. So when Bhishma, the son of Ambika, Dhritarashtra, Drona, Duryodhana, Karna, when they saw Uddhav, they were in bliss. They loved Uddhava. And when they heard that Balaram was there, they were so happy. They honored Uddhava and they gave him all kinds of services and worship ceremonies. And then they brought their paraphernalia and ran to the garden outside the city to worship Lord Balaram. And they were really, from their hearts, they were so happy to see Balaram, to serve Balaram, to honor Balaram. They knew what an exalted position he was in, and they knew he was such a dear, loving well-wisher of each and every one of them. And after all the worship, they exchanged very affectionate talk by inquiring about all their relatives on both sides. And when all the sweet, friendly formalities were completed, Balaramji gave his message. That King Yudhisthira knows that you have kidnapped Samba by unfair means. But because of our marital ties between the two dynasties, he's willing to forgive you. In other words, give Samba back. And everything's all right. That's all. He'll forgive you. You did wrong. You made a mistake. But you're forgiven. Just give Samba and his wife back. So gracious was Balaram. He was speaking it for their benefit. Otherwise, they would have been destroyed. He was their well-wisher. He was their friend. He was their lover. But, Srimad Bhagavatam says, the Kurus were proud. They're proud of their wealth, proud of their power, proud of their high birth. And due to that pride, they could not tolerate good advice, even from their dearest friend. They were outraged. What do we hear today? We see that the lowly, dirty shoes meant for the feet want to crawl up and take the place of the crown by being on top of the head. We see that insignificant jackals want to take away the booty of a lion. Whatever the Yadus have is only by the grace of the Kurus. You have a throne to sit on only because we tolerate it and we allow you to do it. We should have destroyed all of you before for using our royal paraphernalia like the yak fans. But because of our affection to you, because of our mercy, we have allowed you, tolerated you doing it. But now, you who are depending on our gracious kindness and tolerance, you are demanding something from us? Impossible. And after saying these words of harsh criticism, they just huffed, turned their backs, and walked back into the city. Balaramji remained totally silent. As they were speaking, he didn't say anything, but his eyes were getting redder and redder. After they went back into the city in a huff, Balaramji spoke to some of the ordinary citizens who were gathered around him. Just see how pride has destroyed their good intelligence. And now they're disrespecting me, who has come to save them? Their world's greatest well-wisher, who has taught Duryodhana how to fight with club, who's always been their supporter. They're disrespecting me. And what are they saying about Yadus? Even the demigods like Shiva and Brahma come to pay their homages to King Ugrasena. And Krishna is worshipped by the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. He is worshipped by Shiva, by Brahma, by all the demigods. He's the supreme absolute truth, the controller of all controllers. And they are saying Krishna is not fit to sit on their throne? That Krishna is offensive for using their paraphernalia? Because of their false pride, today I will punish them. They have disrespected the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotees. He laughed very loud. It wasn't a humorous laugh. It was the laugh of wrath. That today I will drag Hastinapur and all of its residents, the entire Kuru dynasty, and destroy them all by casting him into the river Ganges. He ordered the Ganges to swell unlimitedly, to become so huge and so powerful that the entire city of Hastinapur could be cast within her waves and destroyed within a minute. Then with the tip of his plow, he separated Hastinapur from the rest of the earth and dragged it. All these great Kuru warriors, they felt the entire city moving. This was not just an earthquake. This was something much more. The entire city was like a boat on a sea in a massive storm. Everything was moving, everything was falling, and they came to the conclusion, Balaram is angry. They made a big mistake. They all came running, Duryodhana, Bhishma, Karna, Dhritarashtra, they all came running to whatever extent they had, and they had Samba and Lakshmana in front. And they prayed, Balaramji, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are all powerful. We know that you never become angry, you're always in the mode of goodness. This is not anger. It is actually only your mercy. Because of our false pride, because of our attachment to our opulences, our wealth, our power, our high birth, we have offended others. And you are showing this unbelievable demonstration of strength just to sober us out of our intoxicated state and rectify our faults. We're rectified. we surrender to you. Here is Lakshmana, and here is Samba. And then Duryodhana said, I will give such a nice dowry to my daughter and to Samba and bring it back to Krishna and go back to Dwarka and be happy. And Samba was very happy, and Balaramji was pacified. He put Hastinapur back in its place and returned. Another example. Balaram, the original guru, how he knows what an impediment false pride is. What an impediment aparads to respectable persons are. And he wanted to show the extent of what he was willing to do to rectify that. And I'll tell one more story with the same moral. Because of Balaram's love for both the Kurus and the Pandavas, when they decided to have their war, Balaram was thinking that I love Yudhisthira so much, but I also love Duryodhana so much. Duryodhana is going to canvass me to be on his side, and Yudhisthira is going to try to canvass me to be on his side. And he didn't want to take sides. But in a situation like that, how do you remain neutral? A war's going on. If you just remain neutral, you're interpreted to be against both sides. Yes? How many of you have been in that situation where two people are having conflict? Sometimes I go to New Vrindavan, so I have that experience quite a bit. And everybody's trying to canvass you to be on their side. And because you have loving, friendly relationships with both, it's very difficult. So what Balaram did, and he's an acharya, he's the original guru, he escaped the whole situation. He left before anybody could ask him to be on their sides. And he went on pilgrimage. This is one of the reasons we go on yatras, actually. To get away from all these things. So he just, before anyone could approach him to canvass his support, he just disappeared and went on pilgrimage. Now, while he was on pilgrimage, he went to so many holy places. He followed along the banks of the Yamuna and Ganga, and ultimately he came to Naimisharanya. There so many great Brahmins and sages were assembled. When he entered into the arena, all of them stood up with folded hands to greet him. They were bowing down, offering worship to him, offering gifts to him. Everyone, except the leader amongst them. His name was Romaharshan Sutta. Romaharshan Sutta is directly disciple, trained by Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of Krishna. Romaharshan was sitting on the Vyasasan. He was speaking the scriptures in perfect Sanskrit to all these Brahmins and sages. Now these were great, powerful scholars, but they all accepted Romaharshan was more learned and senior to all of them, due to his position as being a disciple of Vyas and what he had assimilated. So while sitting on Vyasasan, with all these sages sitting at his feet, he did not consider it appropriate for him to stand up to offer honor to anyone. Now that may sound like a small offense, but Balaramji was not just teaching Romaharshan a lesson. Balaramji, as the original guru, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead who descends to establish real principles of religion, he wanted to show an example for all time to come. When the Lord gets angry, it's not like our anger. The Lord's anger is out of love and compassion, always for the welfare of everyone. Balaramji spoke these words. Because this fool, from an improperly mixed marriage, sits above all these Brahmins, and even above me, the protector of religion, he deserves to die. Although he is a disciple of the divine sage Vyas and has thoroughly learned many scriptures from him, including the law books of religious duties and the epic scriptures and Puranas, all this study has not produced good qualities in him. Rather, his study of the scriptures is like an actor studying his part, for he is not self-controlled, he is not humble, and vainly presumes himself a scholarly authority, though he has failed to conquer his own mind. Balaramji is here establishing that false pride can only happen to one who has failed to conquer his mind. You may be a sannyasi, you may be a brahmachari, you may be a staunch grihasta, you may be whatever you do. You may be a yogi in the forest who only eats and drinks air and lives to 500 years old without gray hairs. But if you have pride, you have not controlled your mind, which is the sixth and most powerful of all the senses. Balaramji is saying, if you have false pride, if you're not humble, even though you're a great scholar of scriptures, even you're a disciple of Vyasadeva, even though you're getting the adoration and the recognition and honor of so many great rishis, if you do not have good character, which means respect toward others and humility, if you do not have good character, it is all useless. It is all in vain.